Picture a Friday night at a local bar in a bustling city. The music is a low hum in the background as Nana Darkoa Sekyiamah sits across from a close male colleague. They are partaking in a weekly ritual they casually call washing off the week. They are several drinks deep into the evening when her friend leans across the table and makes a startling confession. He tells her he is a submissive and a masochist. Her immediate internal reaction is complete rejection. She thinks there is absolutely no way that lifestyle is for her. But then, her friend challenges her. He asks what she might be into if she is not submissive. Suddenly, a literal light bulb switches on in her mind. She experiences a strange, yummy, tingling sensation in her stomach. Her mind flashes back decades to her childhood. She remembers being a 7-year-old tomboy, reading the war books belonging to her brother. She recalls a highly specific passage about a man with a flannel over his face having water poured over him, a crude description of waterboarding, and how she would read that specific page over and over again because it gave her that exact same tingling sensation. It took her until her early 30s, sitting in that dimly lit bar, to finally realize she is a dominant. This incredibly vulnerable, hyper-specific revelation is just one of the 32 breathtaking stories documented in the sex lives of African women by Nana Darkoa Sekyiamah. The genesis of this monumental project began long before the book was ever published. It started on a warm beach holiday in Ghana. Sekyiamah and her girlfriends were sipping cocktails on the sand when they finally shattered the unspoken taboo and began sharing their deeply personal experiences with physical intimacy. Realizing the sheer power of this liberated dialogue, she co-founded a blog to document these experiences. She strategically chose a web address that sounded intentionally vague, avoiding explicit words so that women across the continent could access the site at work or at home without triggering digital censors or arousing the suspicion of conservative family members. This quiet digital rebellion eventually blossomed into a 5-year journey spanning 31 countries. Sekyiamah traveled the globe to interview women ranging in age from 21 to 71, capturing a brilliant mosaic of intersectional experiences. The book guides the reader through 3 distinct emotional landscapes, beginning with a section dedicated to self-discovery. We are introduced to the story of Helen. Helen is an African woman who felt completely swallowed up by the endless, demanding depths of motherhood. She vividly describes the quiet tragedy of losing her individual identity to the daily grind of raising children and managing a busy household. But instead of letting that erasure become her permanent reality, she and her spouse make a radical pivot. They decide to open their marriage. Helen dives headfirst into the uncharted waters of swinging and the local bondage and disciplined community. The only rule her spouse imposes is a simple request for notification if she develops an interest in someone else, regardless of their gender. Helen transforms from an exhausted, lost mother into a polyamorous, pansexual woman, reclaiming her body through sheer exploration. The texture of this chapter is absolutely fascinating because it highlights the stark contrast between the mundane exhaustion of domestic life and the electrifying rebellion of her newfound sexual agency. We witness her unearthing desires she never knew existed, proving that the journey to personal liberation does not end at the altar or the delivery room. As we transition into the second section focusing on freedom, the narrative shifts from external exploration to profound internal reflection. We meet Gabriela. Gabriela takes a completely different, almost paradoxical route to physical freedom. She intentionally chooses the path of celibacy. She spends nearly 1,000 days abstaining from partnered physical intimacy to tend strictly to her spiritual well-being. But this period of celibacy is never framed as a punishment or a puritanical retreat. It is an active, deliberate exploration. She describes the meticulous, slow process of learning her own bodily geography without the pressure of an endgame or a partner expecting a performance. She spends hours meditating. She massages her own head and slowly rubs heavily scented oils deeply into her skin. She completely ignores her genitalia at first, training her mind to recognize the pleasure inherent in her arms, her neck, and her legs. By the time she finally returns to intimate acts, the experience feels radically different, completely stripped of performative expectations and deeply rooted in a natural, holistic sense of joy. In this same section, we are introduced to Miss Deviant. She is a 52-year-old Black dominatrix who delivers one of the most sobering and brilliant observations in the entire manuscript. After years of running intense dungeon sessions for wealthy, powerful men, she realizes that male submission in the bedroom is ultimately a convenient illusion. She notes that men absolutely love to dip into submission in the safety and privacy of a dungeon. But when they put their expensive suits back on and walk out into the real world, they are certainly not advocating for equal pay or dismantling the patriarchal structures that oppress women daily. It is a sharp, magnificent critique that effortlessly bridges the gap between private bedroom dynamics and systemic global inequality. The final section of the text delves into the grueling nonlinear process of healing. This is where the book reaches its emotional zenith. We are introduced to the deeply moving story of Esther. Esther is a cisgender heterosexual woman studying in America, having previously lived in Cameroon and Kenya. Her narrative is heavy with the devastating weight of childhood trauma. She speaks with brutal honesty about surviving a horrific childhood rape and how that profound violation fundamentally altered her trajectory. The trauma turned her into a rebel, ultimately causing a deep, painful estrangement from her strict missionary parents. Her journey is not a fairy tale about finding the perfect partner to save her. It is a meticulous, agonizing documentation of unlearning deeply ingrained shame. Then we meet Tsitsi, a courageous Zimbabwean woman navigating the complexities of modern dating and motherhood while living with the human immunodeficiency virus. She details the terrifying vulnerability of disclosing her status to potential partners and the absolute triumph of raising a perfectly healthy baby. We also hear from Noura, who completely shatters the binary, conservative expectation that religion and physical desire are locked in a perpetual war. Noura views her physical desires and her spirituality as two sides of the exact same divine coin. She flatly refuses to accept the oppressive dogma that sensuality is inherently sinful, choosing instead to weave her religious faith seamlessly into her physical connections. When looking at the overall execution of the book, the atmosphere Sekyiamah creates is undeniably magnetic. Reading these pages feels exactly like sitting in a dimly lit living room with your most trusted confidants, sharing the kind of closely guarded secrets you previously swore to take to the grave. The author perfectly balances the raw, unpolished authenticity of oral history with a deeply engaging narrative pacing. However, the text does stumble slightly under the sheer, monumental weight of its own ambition. Because there are 32 distinct, towering voices packed into these 300 pages, some of the chapters feel painfully brief. Just as you settle into the unique, beautiful rhythm of one specific life, the chapter abruptly ends, and you are immediately thrust into a completely different country and a completely different orientation. It occasionally feels more like a rapid-fire collection of testimonies, rather than a deeply woven tapestry of long-form character arcs. The reader will undoubtedly find themselves wishing the author had selected fewer subjects and spent 50 pages with each of them, rather than providing only a brief, tantalizing glimpse through the keyhole of their respective lives. Despite this, the editing is sharp, and the decision to trim away unnecessary exposition keeps the central focus exactly where it belongs, on the undeniable power of the voices of the women. Despite that minor pacing critique, this is a truly monumental piece of literature that demands your attention. It is an absolute necessity for anyone interested in intersectional feminism, sociology, or simply the beautiful, messy reality of human connection. It effectively destroys the outdated, monolithic stereotypes of African womanhood and replaces them with a vibrant, breathing mosaic of joy, trauma, and ultimate triumph. If you want a piece of nonfiction that will aggressively challenge your preconceptions, expand your empathy, and leave you deeply moved by the sheer resilience of the human spirit. You need to pick this text up immediately. This book is not just about physical intimacy. It is about the fundamental human right to own your narrative. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you enjoyed this deep dive. And let me know in the comments which perspective resonated with you the most.